This isn't just another headline from Washington. This isn't just another courtroom drama involving powerful people. What's unfolding right now could affect you, your family, and yes, even your wallet. Because when the justice system faces scrutiny, when prosecutors clash with federal power, the ripple effects don't stay in courtrooms. They reach into the lives of everyday Americans who depend on fairness, accountability, and a system that works the same for the rich as it does for the rest of us. In the past few days, a major twist has emerged in the ongoing fallout from the latest Epstein-related release. A prosecutor has stepped forward with what many are calling bad news for Trump's Department of Justice, and the implications are raising serious questions across the country. This isn't just about old files or past crimes. This is about what happens when new information hits the public, and whether the system reacts with transparency or resistance. For families who already feel the weight of rising costs, uncertain benefits, and political gridlock, stories like this strike a nerve. Because when the justice system looks shaky, confidence drops. And when confidence drops, markets react, policies stall, and the people who suffer most are everyday Americans trying to make ends meet. Right now, millions of viewers across the country are asking the same question. What does this mean for the future? And more importantly, what does it mean for you? Because what this prosecutor just revealed could change the conversation in Washington, spark new investigations, and trigger consequences no one expected just weeks ago, and the details are just beginning to surface. The latest Epstein release that started it all. Everything changed when the latest Epstein-related documents began circulating publicly. The release didn't just add another chapter to an already explosive case. It reopened wounds, revived questions, and pulled powerful names back into the spotlight. For years, the Epstein saga has symbolized something bigger than one man's crimes. To many Americans, it represents a system where powerful people seem to avoid consequences while regular citizens face the full force of the law. And when new documents emerge, the public reaction is immediate and intense. This latest release reportedly included fresh details, communications, and references that reignited interest in who knew what and when. Suddenly, conversations that had gone quiet were back on the front page. Social media exploded, cable news panels filled up. And across the country, Americans who had long felt that the full truth was hidden began demanding answers again. But what truly shook Washington wasn't just the content of the release. It was what happened next. Instead of quiet legal maneuvering, a prosecutor stepped forward with a statement that many insiders describe as a direct challenge to the Department of Justice's handling of the situation. And that's when the political temperature started to rise, because when a prosecutor publicly signals trouble inside a high-profile case, it usually means one thing: a legal and political storm may be coming. And for the DOJ, the timing couldn't be worse. The prosecutor's warning that changed the tone. According to reports circulating among legal circles, the prosecutor didn't mince words. The message was clear, direct, and, depending on who you ask, deeply concerning for officials tied to the Justice Department. The prosecutor suggested that the latest release could create serious complications for the DOJ's previous decisions and public positions. That statement alone was enough to send shockwaves through political and legal communities. Why? Because prosecutors rarely make statements like that unless they believe something significant is at stake. For everyday Americans, this might sound like just another fight between lawyers and politicians. But it's bigger than that. When federal agencies face credibility challenges, it affects public trust. And when public trust falls, everything from economic confidence to election outcomes can shift. Think about it this way: your retirement account, your job security, even the stability of your local community are all tied to how much people trust the institutions running the country. When that trust erodes, uncertainty grows. And uncertainty is expensive. That's why this prosecutor's warning is being taken so seriously. It signals that the legal battle around the Epstein fallout may be far from over, and could even escalate in ways the DOJ didn't anticipate. Why this is bad news for the DOJ. The phrase bad news isn't being used lightly. In legal and political circles, words are chosen carefully. And when insiders start describing developments in those terms, it usually means something significant is unfolding behind the scenes. What makes this situation particularly troubling for the DOJ is the potential contradiction between past decisions and the new information coming to light. If the prosecutor's concerns prove accurate, it could raise questions about how the case was handled, what was known at the time, and whether certain opportunities for accountability were missed. That kind of scrutiny doesn't stay contained, it spreads. Congress may start asking questions, investigations could be proposed, hearings might follow, and once that process begins, the headlines don't stop. For American families, the result is more political tension, more uncertainty, and often more gridlock in Washington. And when Washington is stuck in conflict, the policies that affect your taxes, benefits, and cost of living often get pushed aside. That's why this story matters beyond the courtroom. It's not just about legal strategy, it's about what happens when trust in major institutions starts to crack. The political fallout already building. Even before any official investigations are announced, the political fallout is starting to build. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are reacting, commentators are weighing in, and the narrative is shifting fast. Some are calling for deeper reviews, others are urging caution. But one thing is clear, this development has reopened a political issue many thought was fading into the background. For the average American, that means more headlines, more political tension, and more uncertainty about what comes next. And uncertainty, as history has shown, can impact everything from stock prices to job growth. When political storms hit Washington, they don't stay there. They move outward, affecting policies, budgets, and decisions that shape everyday life. So while this story may seem like it belongs in a courtroom, its consequences could end up reaching kitchen tables across the country. And the biggest question now is whether this will lead to new legal action or just more political battles. What legal experts are saying. Legal analysts are already dissecting the prosecutor's statements, and the reactions are mixed. Some experts say the warning could signal deeper issues within the case's handling. Others argue it may simply be part of a broader legal strategy. But nearly everyone agrees on one point. The situation has become more complicated. Complex legal battles tend to drag on. They involve appeals, hearings, motions, and endless procedural steps. And the longer they last, the more attention and resources they consume. For taxpayers, that matters. Every major legal fight involving federal agencies costs money. And those costs eventually come from the same pool that funds Social Security, Medicare, infrastructure, and other programs Americans rely on. So while the headlines focus on prosecutors and politicians, the financial impact ultimately circles back to the public. And that's why so many people are watching this story closely. The trust factor. Americans can't ignore. At the heart of this story is something more important than any single document or statement: trust. Americans want to believe that the justice system treats everyone equally. They want to know that powerful figures are held accountable just like ordinary citizens. And when stories like this surface, that belief is tested. If trust in the system erodes, it doesn't just affect courtrooms, it affects elections, markets, and public confidence in government programs. When people lose trust, they spend less, invest less, and worry more. And that economic anxiety can spread quickly. So while this prosecutor's statement might sound like a technical legal issue, its deeper impact is emotional and financial for millions of Americans. Because when trust disappears, stability often goes with it. What could happen? Next. Right now, several paths are possible. The DOJ could respond with new statements or actions to address the prosecutor's concerns. Lawmakers could call for hearings or reviews, or the situation could escalate into a broader legal and political conflict. Each of these scenarios comes with its own consequences. More investigations mean more headlines. More headlines mean more uncertainty. And more uncertainty often leads to economic ripple effects that reach everyday households. That's why this story is being watched so closely across the country, because no one knows exactly what the next move will be. Why this story matters to your wallet. It might seem like a stretch to connect a legal battle to your personal finances, but in today's interconnected economy, political and legal instability can have real financial consequences. When major institutions face scrutiny, markets react. When markets react, retirement accounts move. When political fights stall legislation, benefit increases, and economic relief measures often get delayed. In other words, what happens in Washington doesn't stay in Washington. It affects interest rates, tax policies, and government programs that millions of Americans depend on. So when a prosecutor drops a warning that shakes confidence in a major federal agency, it's not just a legal issue, it's a financial one too. At the end of the day, this story isn't just about prosecutors, politicians, or old documents. It's about accountability, trust, and the future of a system that millions of Americans rely on every day. The prosecutor's warning has added a new layer of tension to an already complex situation. And depending on what happens next, the consequences could stretch far beyond the courtroom. For you and your family, the key takeaway is simple. stay informed. Because the decisions made in the weeks ahead could shape policies, markets, and programs that directly affect your financial future. This story is still developing. New details could emerge at any moment. And when they do, they could change the conversation in ways no one expects. So keep watching, stay alert, and make sure you're following updates closely. Because in times like these, information isn't just power, it's protection for your future.